Today's top picks from Reuters Breakingviews, some financial jiggery-pokery from Italy, and the hidden subliminal messages in this year's Eurovision Song Contest. With me now to discuss these stories is Reuters Breakingviews' Chris Hughes. Chris, explain this one to me. Italy is going to issue bonds to pay for domestic bills, yet that borrowing is not going to show up on its balance sheet.
Yeah, it's an amazing wheeze, if you like, but it's quite clever because the problem that Italy's got is that they are its regions are in arrears on lots of bills, and the question is, how do you pay suppliers without kind of raising your debt to GDP ratio if you want to issue debt to do so? Now, the clever way of sort of squaring this circle is to use financial engineering. So what they're going to do is they're going to get the banks to lend to these poor suppliers who've not been paid, and then the government will then guarantee those loans from the banks to the suppliers. Now, all that adds up to the suppliers getting their money, the banks being indemnified against losses, but because the guarantees aren't actually treated as increasing the government's debt, it doesn't create a sort of frightening number that spooks the markets.
That's
although technically, because they're contingent liabilities, they technically could come back to bite Rome, but actually it's not going to create the same effect as if you increase your debt by the 30 billion euros involved here. So, look, it is financial engineering. We've seen where financial engineering got Greece in terms of the way that it's presented its own debt. You know, that you might say the markets will see through it and get scared, but probably less scared than if you suddenly added 30 billion to national debt.
Well, given all that we've been through in the last 5 years, all we're going through here in Europe, you mentioned Greece, is the very idea that this kind of financial engineering off-balance sheet, 30 billion euros off-balance sheet, the very idea that this is acceptable or makes sense is quite frankly absurd, isn't it?
But I think the reality is that in the current climate, if you suddenly did add 30 billion to Italy's debt, with the knock-on effect for the optics of the Italian debt situation, that would actually be worse than this rather complex system of loans and then guarantees. It's just the reality of the situation.
Indeed. Well, I think this one will roll. Okay, on to the Eurovision Song Contest. Now, you guys at Breakingviews have been looking through some of the song titles for this year's competition, and there are some
detailed financial analysis of the
this is what we're all about, isn't it?
Eurovision Song Contest. Well, it is striking. There do seem to be some subliminal financial messages coming through. So, if you'll forgive me, I'm just going to consult my notes here. The Finns, who, as we know, have been quite sceptical of funding Eurozone bailouts. Their entry is called Close Your Eyes, strangely enough. Spain, obviously hoping that it will be supported in its continuing Euro membership, has conveniently gone for a song called Stay With Me. And Montenegro has got the Euro, which even concludes Euro monetary breakdance, give me a chance to refinance. I'm sure that rhymes when it's sung. So there is, strangely enough, plenty of financial insight in this year's Eurovision Song Contest.
Well, perhaps Angela Merkel, François Hollande and co. Over dinner tonight will be listening to some of those songs or discussing them. What do you think? Again, Reuters Breakingviews has probably given this a great deal of thought. What do you think should be the background music for tonight's dinner?
Well, you mentioned, the Eurovision Song Contest here. The Greece's entry is called Aphrodisiac, but maybe Breaking Up Is Hard to Do might be the more appropriate choice.
Aphrodisiac. Well, I'll leave you all to draw your own conclusions on that one. That's all for now. My thanks there to Chris Hughes from Reuters Breakingviews. For more agenda-setting financial insight, watch our US Breakingviews show every day at 12:30 Eastern, 17:30 British Summer Time. I'm Jamie McGeever. This is Reuters.